Hey guys, and welcome back to the INSITE channel. My name is Freddy, or GrimyRannarr, and today we have Grim in the Crosshairs. One of the most esteemed North American riflers join me today, and you're carrying the NACS banner now on the side of complexity after we saw Liquid take more of a European route. But Mike, it's an absolute pleasure to have you today. Firstly, how you doing? How are you enjoying the player break?
Nice being here. Nice to finally get to talk to you. Player break's been nice. Spend some time with family and just get the reset after the season. So I'm just taking some time, but getting back
Yeah,
into the swing of things now with the season about to start.
yeah, completely. And for a conversation we're just having, the fact that it's taken like quite a while to get you on has made me realize how intense your guys' schedules are. Of like, we was like, you're in this country this week, and then you're in this country next week, and I was like, damn, this guy is like a ghost. He like you come and go everywhere. But something I always like to ask people, just kind of like break the ice, get going with it. Is it like, how did you first get into CS? And it's always interesting seeing like the different regions and like how it's different, maybe like a Danish player.
Yeah, so I first got into CS because when I was in high school, I think my freshman year, one of my friends was like, "Yo, you want to play this game called Counter-Strike?" I'm like, "All right, I'll download it when I get home and try it out." And we played a few games. I actually liked it, but at the time I was grinding another game. I forgot what it was. It might have been either World of Warcraft or Call of Duty at the time. But I was grinding that, so I played like I think 10 hours of CS with him just like after school. Not 10 hours a night, but 10 hours total.
Yeah.
Um, just over the span of like a couple of weeks, and I actually quit for a while. But then I saw that I was watching a stream, and there was like an ESO Cologne 2015 or something, and I was watching. I thought it was really sick, so it got me into playing Counter Strike again. After that, like 6 months later, I started playing.
All right. Okay. So like, if you kind of look at your career, then you started that like 2016 type area, and in the space of like a year, you were on like a semi-professional team. That's a very quick trajectory. And like, something I want to talk about firstly is like, you grinded a lot through the NA scene when you were younger, and then like you kind of had like the early teams, and then Triumph and Bad News Bears. Um, do you feel like you were marked at quite a young age as like a young talent, and did that like add any pressure?
I think so, and I don't think it added too much pressure, but I think I came up with a lot of like respectable, talented players that are actually like doing good now. Like
Mm.
when I was coming up, there was like MOTM, Vanity, like Dazzle, Zeppa, Moose, like all these people that are on like pro teams now. So I think I actually came up around like a really good time, and had good players around me. I think that helped a lot as a play factor. But yeah, I've been playing I'd say on like or taking it seriously, I guess, since 2017. Because 2016, I was just like pugging and trying to find a team, but grinding my way through the ranks. And I think I won main my first season in 2017 and won MDL my next season after that, like back to back. So it was really nice.
Wait, so let me get straight. In like 2 years, you went from like nothing to winning MDL. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. Because I started in open. I never played a season twice besides I think main, and it was because my first season I think we went 0-6, and I'm like, all right, well we gotta
You're
really
like,
get the
screw that. You're like, fuck that.
yeah, but yeah, it's been pretty nice.
Okay, so like people literally play for like 10 years to get to like where you are now, but you kind of did that in like 2 years. Like, do you feel like you maybe just had like a talent, or was there, as you were saying, like coming up with people, did you then have potentially someone who was already there teaching you?
I'd say like I was like a pretty good talent as well, so it definitely helped a lot. But I definitely had good people around me. Like when I was coming up, the main people I played with, like Voltage, Exceed, Snakes, and I don't know if you remember MCE, but he's like a pro Valorant coach now. He was like, coaching us at the time, and I think he helped a lot develop all of us as a player, and specifically me. Like he helped me a lot. So definitely think I was a talent for sure, but I also don't want to discredit my teammates and the people I had around
Yeah,
me that could help me grow that fast.
completely. And so like you kind of got to that top stage, like maybe like MDL, but then you did stay there for a while, and you grinded that period for a while, from my perspective. And I feel like we've got a bit of a culture right now, especially in Europe, of promoting players to tier one like really fast. And do you feel like because you didn't skip those hurdles, that was actually better for you?
I think so because it allowed me to like practice around that level more and get like more reps, I guess, instead of just being thrown to the wolves like straight in. I think that helped a lot. Like in Europe, I think a lot more people get picked up because honestly, like the player pool is way bigger than it is here. Like like the FPL is like 4 games a night or something, and there's like a lot more scrims compared to here. So the player pool definitely helps. But I think that yeah, just for me, playing because after winning MDL my first season and playing pro, we got owned, but I mean, it was a good learning experience, for the next time. So it definitely helped a lot. And more games like that, like more high quality games that you play, like specifically matches, help you a lot to not be like nervous or feel too much pressure in the future. I think that definitely helped when I was playing my next MDL seasons.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, so kind of shortly after that, you joined Liquid. How did you adjust your mindset though, from going to like playing at that level to then literally like with Liquid, you would have instantly been plunged into like the best of the best. How were you able to maybe like mentally prepare yourself for like this adjustment period almost?
For me, I told myself that like obviously they see something in me, and I just gotta keep doing what I've been doing on like Triumphs. I just gotta keep playing the same and not like playing any differently. But I kind of came into that team just trying to really learn from everyone, like kind of like a sponge, just absorb as much info as I can because they're all like legends and stuff. When I came in, they just came off like a Grand Slam run, like I think a few months
Yeah,
after that, and I should have left. So I just wanted to come in and learn everything as much as I could, and just try to be like a good like rock for the team in that way.
because I was speaking about Liquid with like kind of like the most recent roster they have now. Like I was listening to an interview and like Naf was saying how like OC sometimes gets a bit scared because like he's playing with all these great people and kind of like shut up to that. Did you maybe have that a little bit with like joining the roster and being like maybe nervous to make your own decisions sometimes?
I definitely think so. After the first couple of months is definitely the hardest because obviously you're still new and you're still getting to know them as people and as teammates. So you feel like this like you're not like scared, but you're not like gonna call as much just because like you're not as comfortable, right? Like when people are comfortable, they call the most. So definitely can see like OC how they get used to it, and I definitely had to get used to it too. I think after like a long time on the team, I think I was on that team for 17 months.
Yeah.
It felt natural towards the end. Like it was like they're my friends and teammates. It wasn't like they're like my idols or anything.
Yeah.
Like I got used to it.
Yeah, because like time, like that is just science. That's time, right? Like you can't put anything on that. But so after that 17 months, you now come into like what we are now with complexity. And I just want to firstly talk about like what experiences might have you brought from Liquid that you were kind of like implementing into complexity straight away, because it was a bit of a new roster with like the extra salt core and then Junior who'd played with before and you. So it was like kind of like this new team. Like what type of things would you have brought into complexity?
I'd say is like our practice schedule. I think when I joined, we started practicing a lot more as well. But I think that I could bring some experience in from the tier one scene, because I think when I joined Complexity at the time, there wasn't too much tier one experience. I think Extra Salt was grinding like tier two NA and EU for most of the time, so I was able to bring in some like experience from like what I dealt with, what I play against, like what these teams are doing. I think that helped a lot, and just try to like help everyone at LAN as well, because I know they fled a lot of LANs, but the tier one LANs at the time were pretty fresh for everyone. So I was just trying to bring as much experience and positivity as I can, and try to make everyone as comfortable in that LAN environment.
So do you think the like complexity roster when it formed was maybe like it was like a long-term investment of like, as you said, like you were the one tier one player and it was like we have the partnered spots, we can take the time to put everyone to the level of tier one?
I think so. I think I was definitely the most experienced one when we first made the team, but I think that even I was not like too experienced either. Like I was just playing on Liquid for like 17 months. There's way more experienced players for me, so I was still learning too. So I think it was definitely like a long-term investment that would pay off in the end, because at first like you can't expect like brand new players at tier one just to, like instantly do good, right? Like you have to invest some time to learn from your mistakes and put in some effort. And I think that Complexity understood that when they picked us up, and I think they're doing like a really good job of supporting us and just like trying to help us do the best we can, basically.
Yeah, because it feels like complexity did change their tone a lot when they picked you guys up, because it was the whole like the Jason Lake tweet when it was like what was it like what was the actual, I had it written down, but it was like when he says like these results aren't like good enough type thing with like ages ago. Like so has that mentality changed within the organization then, of like these results won't be tolerated, we need to build a super team type thing?
I think for them, when they had that Juggernaut team, they're obviously like they have super high caliber players, and they're like obviously putting a lot of money into those players. So for those results, like they'd want them to get like top one, top five. I think for us, since we were upcoming and they weren't spending as much on the team, that they have more of like a leeway in terms of like afford to make a few mistakes so we can actually learn from it, compared to like when they're like dishing out all this money for the Juggernaut team, and
Mm.
there's might not be as much leeway to like make the same mistakes that we have. But I think that they're doing a great job, and yeah, I'd just say that about that.
It's really good to hear. And so kind of like, yeah, so when you made that roster, I think as I've already mentioned, is like you brought in the core of Extra Salt and you and Junior, like you'd already known Junior from Triumph, if that's correct. And what I just want to ask is like, what was it like joining a core that would have already played with each other for quite a while? Like, was it easy to just kind of integrate into this almost like friendship group? Did you have to pick up some roles that you normally wouldn't, or did like the whole structure change when you joined Complexity?
I think the team made it really easy for me and Junior to come in. It's kind of just like a plug and play for me. Like I got to pick like whatever roles I wanted really, and
Oh, okay.
as JT's the op, or not JT, Junior, sorry, was the opper. So I mean, the opper just he plays his own role, so it's really easy for him to fit in. But I think they did a really good job of like just kind of catching us up on the speed on like the strats and protocols and stuff they have, and it's a lot easier just like bringing in a player rather than like making a whole new team from scratch, because at least you have like a foundation or like some stuff already built up. But for us, it wasn't too bad, and we were all already friends before making the team, so it wasn't like a friendship like learning curve or learning how people are, because we already knew how they were. So it was really nice making that team.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference I see between like EU and NA. Of like in EU, you do just plug and pick people in, and they wouldn't be friends. But in NA, like you guys are a smaller region, right? So do you like would that make it easier for roster changes sometimes, whereas like everyone kind of knows each other?
I think so, because like you said, in EU there's a lot more player pool, so not everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
But NA, since like the top players are, it's kind of like a small group. Like most of the time, like everyone knows everyone here in NA, and we've all played with each other before in like a FPL and stuff like that. So I'd say it's definitely a lot easier to make a team where people know each other, at least in NA compared to Europe.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so most recently, like before ELiGE, you picked up Hallzerk like almost a year ago. Honestly, from my perspective, that felt really random. I was like, of all players, I was like, this seemed like a really random pickup. Because like he has experience. Like on Dignitas, they played some good events and they did well. But like he wouldn't have been a tier 1 player, and you guys were like trying to contest for that like top of the top. That he slotted in really well, and like he's literally just doing better and better. But when you picked him up, like what was the reasoning behind this, especially because he was like an EU import?
Yeah, so we were just looking at some offers, and I think after that, I think we were in Cologne, and we were trying out a few offers after telling Junior he was gone. Obviously, non-contracted offers like free agents, and we were trying out some people, just seeing who slotted in. T on TC was watching some demos of the offers, seeing how they could fit into our system, and when we tried out Hallzerk, like everything just like was amazing. Like his personality like meshed really well with the team compared to the other people we were trying out, and he's honestly just like a super funny, good guy, which fits really well on our team, because I'm really glad that we could pick up Hallzerk, and that's just basically how it went. Like we knew after the first scrim basically that we didn't want to try out anyone else, so we wanted him. So it was like nice to be able to get him signed.
That's a very rare thing to have, of just like instantly, just like bam, first person. But you just mentioned there like with the mentality and the attitude. How important do you think it is that like you have a team where the mentalities everyone fits? And have you potentially ever been in a position where like you were on a team and you might have worked in game, but then the like almost mentalities didn't match together?
I think it's really important because in this game, chemistry is a very big thing. So you got to be like friends with your teammates, and you got to be able to trust them in the server. So I think having a good friendship outside the game helps with the trust. And I think that, yeah, if you don't have that like chemistry outside the game, it won't help in the game, because it's just going to be pretty hard. And I've definitely been on some teams before where, people just weren't really talk too much outside the game. And I think that's what helped me the most when I was actually coming up in my career, because my teammates, like Snakes Voltage, Exceed, all of them, we were actually like talking like every day before and after prac. Like we'd get on like whenever we wanted to get on and just chill until practice and pug together, and like pug and go to bed and play like random like Scribble IO and stuff, after prac. And I think like stuff like that is really important and helps grow as a team.
The classic golf with your friends after practice. It's a it's a tale as old as time. So with Hallzerk, you obviously though you have the problem though of him like being situated in Europe, and like I know sometimes you guys do practice when you guys are in America and when he's in Europe. Like, are there any difficulties maybe like outside of practice as well with him being in Europe, or like even then just like like practicing when he's in Europe?
I don't think it's too difficult because most of the time when we hardcore practice, we go to Europe for a boot camp and he comes with us. But in
Yeah.
NA, if we have like any tournaments right now, since he can't get the visa, um, we just fly him to Mexico and he just plays from there. So it's like the ping's not too bad. So for any like important stuff, we'll fly him out. But I'd say for like just normal practice when we're home and about to fly to Europe, we'll just like have him play from Europe. I don't think it's too bad having one person on high ping. If the whole team's a high ping, it's to be a problem with like a majority, but one person's fine. And honestly, he does really well with the high ping. Like most of the scrims, he dropped them at 23 plus. I'm like, well, high ping, just kidding.
It must be so disheartening him playing on high ping, and you're like, how is he still doing better than me?
Yeah. We made fun of him the other day because he was in like a clutch and like someone sprinted across his screen, but he shot like 3 seconds. I thought that was all. I'm like, no, he was not.
No.
Too far.
He also like literally couldn't be further away. Like he is so like with Norway, like he is so far away. Like it's not like a UK or Ireland where you get like 100 ping maybe. He's like a lot more. Um, but yeah. So like speaking kind of on the basis we've spoken about of traveling a lot, as you were just saying, like you boot camp in Europe quite a lot. Like I know you guys go to Kingwin in Warsaw. Like a lot of teams do. So everyone always says, like, and they never give a reason why. People are always like, practice is better than America, better in Europe than America. But I feel like people don't actually like say why. They kind of just throw that comment around, and they're always like, EU's better than NA. But it's like, what are the differences when you actually come and play against team in Europe? Like, is it the amount of teams that are playing? Is it like the play style? Do people take it more seriously? Is it just like the general level of plays higher? Like, what makes you grow more when you're in Europe compared to NA?
I'd say there's a lot of factors, and I'd say like yeah, I think it's taken a bit more serious, and I think that just the players are a bit more up to speed on the meta because if they're in Europe, they're playing against other European teams all the time, so they're always caught up to the meta. Whereas you're an NA team, like a wild card, or like one of the upcoming MDL teams, you don't get as many opportunities as like a Complexity or EG or Liquid to go to Europe and actually practice against these teams. So like it's really harder to catch up to the meta compared to like one of us, like Complexities or someone that get to go to Europe and practice there all the time. And I think that like the style of play is like I said, more caught up to the meta. Like teams are playing slower, like teams have faster reactions and protocols compared to the teams that we have here. And honestly, like I think the amount of teams we have to scrim is also a factor because when we come here, it's like hard to find scrims at like even like most of the hours of the day. But in Europe, you go to Europe, like teams are ready to scrim like literally like 11, 12 or 11 a.m., 12 p.m. and throughout the whole day, there's a ton of scrims. So I think that definitely has a factor. And in NA, you don't want to scrim too many teams as well because since there's like not as many teams, all these teams that you're going to be scrimming are going to be teams that you're playing in all these like important qualifiers that are coming up. So it's really hard to find practice if you keep that account as well because you don't want like people to record scrims and go back and see what you do right before you play a match. So it's a lot of factors that make it tough.
Yeah, I feel like in the end it just sounds like it just boiled down to like the amount of people, and like with Europe we've got so many more tiers in a sense. But like you kind of mentioned there a little bit like the meta and like Europe or like America being behind the meta is like surely like if it's being played out in Europe, like how does it take so long then to like almost come to NA as you were saying?
I just think I don't know. I think if you're not able to play against those teams, which these teams aren't because they don't get the opportunities, it's very hard to like truly understand. Like you can watch something, but it's different to actually like play against it. And I think it just boils down to everyone taking things a bit more seriously as well, like actually putting an effort to try. Because I know in FPL sometimes it gets too troll in FPL. Like I understand some games get troll, but like when I was playing, there's like a bunch of people buying the Gebs and just running around and then not really trying. So I was like, okay, well, I haven't played FPL in a while because I was actually gonna wait till Counter-Strike 2 comes out to actually grind some FPL and get used to the new game. But yeah, I think people need to take it more seriously as well. But I think it does boil down to like the opportunities they get to actually play against the competition, and that's why like everyone I think grinds FPL and takes it a lot more seriously when there's events in NA, because the European teams are actually coming here and playing FPL as well, so the players want to learn from them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think like speaking about the FPL, like talking to European players is like you can get kicked in EU FPL or FPLC for like anything. Like it's so cutthroat. Like people like will be like, this guy threw a bad smoke, let's kick him, and I'm like, what? Like it's
I
so
don't even think
cutthroat.
Hallzerk's in FPL. He's in FPLC, surprisingly.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's like top 30 players in FPLC. Like FPL is so like exclusive, really. But then like speaking about Europe and travel and it's a conversation we've already had kind of pretty in now is like, you guys travel a lot, like so much, and I feel like it's heightened by the fact that you are in NA because you have to come to Europe. Whereas like if you're an EU team, you can just stay at home, and like that is like fine for practice. But and like a conversation that has been brought up a lot, especially in regards to the NA teams, is this packed schedule is like, how does this affect your team? And also like as an individual, it's like I know you were saying like you come home twice a month, like that must be quite hard, no?
Yeah, it is definitely hard, but as an NA team, like you can't really use it as an excuse. Like it kind of sucks, but like you can't just sit here and like blame every game on it. So you kind of have to get used to it. It definitely does suck because like we'll compare these the EU teams. Like if you're an NA team, you have to go to Europe for like 4 to 6 weeks at a time before you can come back. And then when you come back during the season, you're only back for like a week, maybe two, and you're always playing like qualifiers. Like you don't get too much time off. And I'd say like definitely like a advantage European teams have on the NA teams is after every event, you know, they get to just take a 1 hour flight home and chill and practice from home. But we have to stay like 4 to 6 weeks boot camping and living out of hotels because we can't just like go home and come back all the time. Because I mean, one, the flights are super expensive, and two, like you're just gonna be like jet lagged the whole time. Like so, you want to like stay as long as you can. So I definitely think that's an advantage that they have, for sure.
Because so like as you're saying, like you spend a lot of time in hotels. Do you guys actually do stuff to make that easier? Like, because I feel like it'd be quite hard if you just like, okay, hotel prac, stuff like that. Like, is there anything like almost like in the team you've implemented just to make like travel and these travel days just that little bit easier?
I want to say anything's implemented in our team, but I think that we have a team that everyone likes just getting outside and going out every now and then. Like we all like to go out to like a restaurant or just have a dinner, just go outside, like walk around. I think walking helps a lot. We always like to just get out and do stuff, so we're not always like cooped up in the hotel. Like we like to do stuff and like pretty much only go to the hotel for like alone time or sleeping, basically.
Yeah, go. I was it. Love a good podcast and walk. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with that. But I feel like we can't have an interview right now without talking about the major and with like Liquid, because it's right to say like Liquid, like the legend spot is lost for NA now. Is that like that is right? Say I'm not making that up.
Yeah.
Okay. And like because Liquid are not American anymore, they're European, and like the response is from like everyone, and the quote that Launder said to HTV was like, "This is the worst thing to happen to NACS." Is this something you would agree with?
I don't know if it'd be like the worst thing. I think that Liquid, for as long as I can remember, have only been trying to help the scene. So I think it's kind of unfair that some people are like saying that they've betrayed NA and stuff like that, because they've literally been like helping NA for a while now. Like, they got NA's Grand Slam and won a ton of tournaments, and we're loyal for a while. But how the landscape is right now and how I said about like your practice being better, it doesn't make sense. So like logistically, it's cheaper for organizations to have a European team because you don't have to pay their flights or hotels all the time. So you like cut the costs in half, and it's just how it is. Like Liquid have been NA for so long, but it definitely does mess up some things. The RMR, the next RMR for the major, because I think now only 4 teams can make it. Before it was 6, and then it was 5, and now it's 4. So it gets harder and harder each RMR to actually make the major. So we're gonna have to be like really well practiced and on our toes for that event.
Yeah, and right now, because of Liquid leaving, you are like the NA team. Like you guys are like if you just look at the HLTV rankings, like you are so far above everyone else from North America. Obviously, you've got the Brazilian teams who play at the NA RMR, same as you. But it's like, do you guys feel like this might actually just put so much more pressure on you guys now because you were like, oh, Liquid's betrayed NA, so complexity will take it up?
I wouldn't say it adds too much pressure on anyone. We kind of just laugh at it. Like, well, guys, we're the best now. It's not
like, we survived. We did it.
but, There's not too much pressure, I would say. I think that all of us, we've had so many matches now, like we can handle pressure a lot better. I don't think it changes in that way. It just kind of sucks for like the grand scheme of NA because of the RMR spot being gone. I think that's like the biggest hit for sure that comes out of all this, in my opinion.
Yeah. And well, like speaking about pressure experiences, like you've obviously now picked up ELiGE. And before we get full swing into that conversation, I just want to like, so when you replaced FaNg, was this something that you had planned to do and the team were like, we want to make a replacement, or was there like when ELiGE became a free agent, you were like, well, like we have to take him?
Yeah, I mean, we all like Justin, and I think that just we had like a ton of events where like things just weren't working out in a row, so we just wanted to change something, but we didn't know what at the time. And then when ELiGE came available, it was kind of like, I mean, you kind of gotta like try to pick him up, right? It's like one of the best North American riflers ever to play the game. He was won so many MVPs, a Grand Slam. Like, kind of just have to pick him up if you're Complexity at that time, because we were struggling in a lot of events. Like, we had like a good tournament at the beginning of the year, but after that, we were kind of falling through in most of the events. So a change had to happen somewhere, whether it was with the players or how we play the game or how we're approaching the game. And I think that when ELiGE came available during the player break, we tried everything we could to get him basically and make it happen, because we wanted a change, and I think someone with ELiGE's experience will help us a lot and able to win more of these games that we're struggling with.
Okay, so if ELiGE hadn't become available, do you think you'd still be playing with FaNg?
Honestly, don't know yet, because I don't think that conversation happened. We might have, we might not, depending on who was available.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really like Justin as a player and as a friend. Like, he was a really good guy to me, and I wish him nothing but the best. Like,
yeah,
that's all I gotta say about that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. So with ELiGE coming in, he's actually like pretty nicely for you been playing a lot of FaNg's roles. Recently, he's been changing them from like Yakindar's been getting his old roles, and he's now been playing like FaNg's roles that he's been playing, and Yakindar's old roles. And on the T side, they're literally like identical, I think, apart from one map that Floppy plays his role. And on the CT side, they're also pretty similar. Are you just gonna place him in and put him into those roles, or how are you guys approaching bringing him in? Are you changing anything?
I'd say we're definitely gonna change some stuff, like as a team, like, you know, make some new strats, stuff like that. But as for ELiGE coming in, it definitely did make a lot of sense to replace FaNg with ELiGE, specifically because they're like literally like a 1-for-1 fit role wise across like almost all the maps. I think there's some maps that ELiGE likes his roles that he on a Liquid more than his previous ones that we will keep. So I think we will be changing some roles up, but for the most part, like, it's gonna be pretty much like a plug and play for him. Like, we just want him to be as comfortable as he can be. So whatever roles that he wants, he can basically have. But I think he'll be fine. Like, all the roles will be fine. It works out for us too, because we get to keep our spots too, and it's just gonna be pretty nice having him.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect, like, it literally just like the stars almost aligned with like the fact that over the last 12 months he has changed those roles. And you were kind of talking about like difficulties you maybe had in tournaments, and I know you've said at the major, like, you struggle to close out games sometimes in the past. Are these some of the things that you feel like ELiGE can improve, or are there any specific improvements that you feel like bringing ELiGE in can help with?
I think just bringing him in will instantly help us improve on a lot of things. But yeah, specifically those matches, like, historically, we kind of choked a lot of matches. Like, we were up like 14-8 against Navi and choked it for the fall final, I think, or the string for whatever final. And we actually got the spot anyway because they couldn't come because of visa problems. But like, we've had a lot of games like that in the past, and I think that ELiGE will help us a lot and able to like close out those games just because of his experience. Like, he'll have a lot more ideas and a lot of like good ideas and ways that he can help close out the game. So I'm really excited to play this and get some matches going.
Because like you've already played with him before, over on Liquid for that extended period of time. Like, how are you feeling now playing with him after such a while? Like, is it weird, or is it just quite nice, like, having a familiar face back in?
It's definitely nice playing with him again, because when I was on his team, like, I was looking at him like, this guy's insane. Like, his mechanics and it just like how he thinks about the game is really good. But definitely the only weird part for me is seeing him in a different jersey besides Liquid, because he's been that thing for as long as like I've ever watched CS. So it's definitely weird, like, seeing him in a Complexity jersey. Like, wait, I need like a few months to get used to that.
You're like, he's wearing a Complexity jersey, and I'm on Complexity with him. It's like, oh, this is weird. That's really cool to hear. And I just kind of want to talk about then, like, maybe expectations. Like, do you feel like ELiGE bringing in like allows you to reach some of like the higher heights just purely on his individualism?
I think so. I think as a team, we haven't really talked about expectations yet because
Mm.
we're still during the break and we haven't started up yet. But
Yeah.
I think that expectations for us should be before we had expectations of making the majors 100% and making a few playoffs. But now I think we could definitely make more playoffs, and even with like a few months of practice and match experience under our belt, I definitely think we can even compete for events now with ELiGE. And I feel like he'll want the same. Like ELiGE is a championship player. He's won a ton of
Yeah.
events. So he's going to want to win too, and he's going to bring that winning mentality to our team.
Because so also what's quite interesting, I feel like with the FaNg and ELiGE change is that ELiGE fundamentally does just bring more firepower, and that's not anything on FaNg. That's just because ELiGE, as you said, like is one of the greatest NA riflers and like has contended for people like he like in people's eyes like in the past like has contended for fifth, third best player in the world at his peak. Do you feel like that might change the dynamic of the team quite a lot because you just have that like sudden splurge of firepower, which is also greater than the person he's replacing?
I think it'll help everyone for like confidence and motivation as well, but specifically confidence because at least for me, when I was playing on Liquid, I was sitting next to guys like Fall and Stewie and Leech. Now
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like kind of unstoppable because like I look to my left, I got actually I was sitting on the far left, so I looked
Oh,
to
you
no one
just
there.
just
I looked to my right. I was sitting next to John, and it was really nice just like seeing that. You definitely feel a lot more confident, like knowing that like even if you make a mistake, like you have the players that are able to like close it out still and fix it and make sure you win the round still. So you feel like a lot more confident to go for plays. And I just think that having ELiGE on the teams would help everyone confidence-wise as well as obviously what he already brings as like a player and as a teammate.
So was that something that like when you joined Liquid was like a massive difference for you, where you kind of maybe went from like Triumph being the best player in the team to not necessarily being the worst, but like the newest kid, where you were like, oh, these guys are legends type thing?
Yeah, it definitely hit me the most on LAN because I was always watching these players and these teams
Yeah.
LAN for forever. Now I'm playing with it. It kind of hit me a lot more on LAN. They're like, damn, like I'm here right now. It's like I was grinding and trying to, make a name for myself out there.
That's pretty cool. And yeah, that's really good to hear. And so I just want to talk a little bit about like NACS and maybe like some of the climate that's like going on around it. So it's like we've spoken a little bit about like the meta not coming over to Europe, but like why do you feel like the meta maybe like why isn't NA creating the meta, and like what specific things do you feel like you could improve to produce more teams of like your caliber?
Honestly, just think it's match experience
Yeah.
for a lot because I think ACK was actually a team that wasn't the best when they started, but now they've actually like done pretty well, and I think they almost beat Astralis in the last Pro League. So it just takes like a lot of match experience, a lot of reviewing, and a lot of time really because you need to like, in my opinion, you need to like talk more and review a lot more if you're not able to play these European teams, and you need to be like conscious of mistakes that you make, like even if it works against like a NA team, it might not be the best play. So you need to be conscious of like the good things and the bad things you're doing. And I think that like for ATK, like I think they did a really good job of that. And just stuff like that. We definitely need to be reviewing our mistakes more here in NA. And until we can get like practice against European teams, I think it's gonna be really hard unless like everyone kind of steps up on their own.
Nice. And so was that something that when you went to Liquid, you noticed massively change of like the kind of like how they prepared for games, and like as you were saying as well, like the boot camping in Europe, like did that accelerate your progression just like at the start, just like tenfold?
I think personally it did for me because I have only played against European teams like a handful of times before I joined Liquid.
Yeah.
But playing against them every single day and like playing against people you'd play in matches as well is like really nice just to like because they show your mistakes more, right? Because they're gonna be killing you more. So there's really like making your mistakes like more obvious compared to NA where like you could even do like a bad thing and it works sometimes. So in Europe you can't really get away with those bad things. So they make you like really more disciplined and like more caring about like how you play, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. And so another one of the big like American teams, EG, they have been critiqued, like Liquid are being critiqued now with playing a very international roster, and this player break, it felt like they were going all international, like Jax, Zorti, all them players were being around EG. But then now they've promoted their second team. Do you feel like this is a really positive thing for NA that like you now have EG kind of still focusing on this American team?
I think it's definitely a very positive thing. We need all the help we can get right now in NA to be able to bring the region back. I think EG, they've gotten a lot of hate, and it always hasn't been the best. They've always been trying to support NA as best they can. Like they had the EG white and black team and the blue, even the gold, like the female team. Like they've been doing a lot for NA. So I think that they can deserve a bit less hate, but I think it's really good that they promoted the EG Black team and gave them a chance, because the EG Black's been doing pretty good for a while, and they're one of the NA teams that were promising. So I'm really excited to see what they can do with the support, and they probably have less pressure than the main team did before. So they're gonna come in and hopefully play their best they can.
Yeah, so like as you were saying, like they get a little bit more hate like as an organization than they should. Do you feel like that's maybe just something that's like really result driven, with the fact that like they are trying but the results aren't great? Do you think it's like people are almost ignoring like what they're actually doing for the scene?
I don't know if they're ignoring it. Like obviously I can't read minds or anything, but I think that a lot of people do care about results, and like the fans like look at results most of the time, like, oh, UG's losing every game, stuff like that. And you know, a lot of people are calling them like the laughing stock and stuff because they're getting last place in most events. So yeah, it's a learning process. Like they went international and they have players that have never played with each other or even talked to each other for that matter. So it definitely takes a lot of time to get comfortable with each other in the game and outside the game. And honestly, I don't think they were given enough time, to be honest, with some of these players. I think like Refresh really only got like 2 months or something. And I think even his 2 months, like he was playing EU to NA a lot because he also had some visa problems up until Dallas. So I don't even think they really got a chance to get started with Refresh. And I think that he could have helped them a lot. But obviously it's gone now, so I don't know what would have happened or what would have came of it. But
yeah, you can't read the future. Well, I guess whatever happens now, whatever happens. And so kind of like coming towards the end, is there any like maybe young NA players or coming up, or not necessarily young by age but young by inexperience, that you look at and you think could break into tier 1? And do you maybe have any advice for this adjustment period? Because as I think we've been talking about, the adjustment period in NA can be very sharp, of like 0 to 100.
I'd say like for anyone specifically coming up, and again, this situation, just really make sure you're being very critical of yourself and trying to learn the most and best you can, because at the end of the day, that's really important. Like you can only get your mechanics so good, and at the end of the day, like if you're playing these top teams in Europe, they have the same, if not better, mechanics than you. So you need to like really get your like let's say like your mental game and your just playmaking and decision making skills up as much as you can, also with the aim. But I'd say a player that a lot of people think could be upcoming that I've seen just on like random comments on Twitter, and even some players think is Swisher. I think he's pretty bright coming for us. And I think that there's a lot of players on downs as well, and I think that if FaNg lands like on a good team again, without a doubt, like he can become pretty good. So
Nice, yeah, because I think it's like I'd love to see like these players just play more. I feel like, as you said, like it's hard to see them sometimes when you're like they're not in the like direct circuit as it is. And like I feel like it'd be really cool if we could see like the likes of Swisher, 80k, and Nouns, like just see them more on the big stage and like more events in NA. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Grim, and I really hope you have a wonderful rest of your player break and a big good luck with your season. I can't wait to see what you guys have to do with ELiGE, and I think it's going to be really cool seeing what Complexity can do for the end of this year. And thank you guys as well so much for watching, and I will see you next episode for another episode of In the Crosshair.